6 weeks, 10 weeks, 4 weeks, when the heck do you start your seeds? When do you transplant them? All of that information can be super confusing. So in today's video, I'm going to show you my little method for figuring out exactly when to start your seeds and how to keep all that information organized. Spoiler alert, it involves highlighters. Plus, I will be sharing why I'm living on the edge this year and planting my seeds scandalously early. Normally, I don't even think about gardening this time of year, but with this being our first spring and having a greenhouse, I have a lot of work to do to get it ready, and I realized that I can plant a lot earlier than normal, so here we go. So my super classy potting table cover is a piece of an old shower curtain that I dug out of the dumpster today. Just because this table isn't sealed and I don't want to just trash it. So there you go. So before we get started, I gotta show you this. A couple videos ago, I showed you how all my spinach and kale and pretty much everything in the greenhouse was frozen solid when we got down to 20 below here. And it actually came back. Like, I can hardly believe it. I mean, you saw it. It was rock solid frozen. And it is back to normal and as healthy as ever. I mean, I knew spinach and kale were tough, but that's impressive. The arugula didn't do so hot, but that's okay. It was going to seed anyway. First things first, I need to do some cleaning out here because I've gotten a little lazy over the winter and just have thrown things and let them be. Okay, I'm gonna pull out some of the wimpy looking arugula and mizuna that didn't do so hot with the cold snap and give my planting area a nice blank slate. So we have a lot of work to do in here, and I don't have the luxury of waiting till the work is done to start my seeds. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how we're going to do geothermal, put down our pavers, put in water out here, and also get my plants going. So this feels like a major juggling act. But just to keep you in the loop, here's what we're thinking out here. So we'll have a nice walkway in the middle, probably some bricks, and planting areas on each side. Then down here, this pallet will be going away. We will have a potting area on this side and tool storage and a hydrant over here. Okay, so I want to start seeds ahead of time. The problem is they all need to be started at different times. And that can get a little hairy trying to keep it all straight, especially if you also have other things you have to do, like keep your children alive or cook food or, you know, those other frivolous things. So here's how we're gonna do this. I printed off a free year-at-a-glance calendar. This is just something I found somewhere online. They're a dime a dozen. So the first thing I've done is identify my last frost date. If you don't know your last frost date of the year, a quick Google search will pull up a ton of websites that'll help you figure that out. The Old Farmer's Almanac website has a zip code calculator, or you can just select your state or province here. And then that will tell me exactly when my first and my last frost date are of the year. Even though this says May 18th, I don't plant till May 31st just to be safe. Next, you want to look at the list of things that you're planning to grow this year and determine which of those vegetables need to be started ahead of time. A quick glance on the back of the seed packet will usually give you this information. Next, I like to sort my seeds into categories based on how much of a head start they need. This year, my categories are tomatoes, brassicas, and peppers. And then I can just count backwards from my last frost date on the calendar and mark out the planting window for each of these categories. Okay, now for my brassicas, they need 4 to 6 weeks. So I counted back 4 to 6 weeks, and this is my window. Purple is the brassica window. Pink is my tomato window, and yellow is my pepper window. So I'm not planting everything today for a couple reasons. First off, I'm only planting a portion of my tomatoes and peppers here in the greenhouse. The rest will go outside like normal. So I don't want to start my outside plants too early because they get root bound and they just get too big for their containers and it's not great. So those guys need to come later. But then the other reason is I'm going to be graduating into a different seed container system. I've used these same trays for years, but I just bought a new toy, a soil block maker. So I'm going to start experimenting with that and put the rest of my seeds for the year in the soil block maker. And when that arrives, I will show you what that looks like because I don't know how to use it yet. We'll figure it out. But anyway, this is what I have for now. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, I just had some helpers come out. Do you want to fill those up for me with soil?
Okay.
Okay. This tray I have some poblanos, some gold medal tomatoes, some candy cherry tomatoes here, and some black beauties here. And if all goes well, these tomatoes will live in the greenhouse all summer long, or well, at least until it gets too hot out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start these guys in my usual seed starting racks here because it's a little too chilly out in the greenhouse right now for these guys to germinate. But as soon as they get going and the greenhouse is just a little bit warmer, out they go. I'm also gonna try another experiment. So you remember the potato video, right? So I had showed you how we had like 200 pounds of potatoes this year and we were storing them in our basement, which isn't a root cellar, but it's the closest thing I have to a root cellar. Well, the potatoes are still edible for sure, but this is what they look like when they are not stored 100% properly. I mean, it's a little creepy when you reach in there, right? It's like a bunch of potato fingers. Now, this isn't a surprise. I knew this would happen because it's not quite cold enough down here. When we build our root cellar, fingers crossed, this year, this will not happen as much, but just over time, it's natural for stuff to get a little squishy, to get a little sprouty. That's just the life cycle of stored produce. It doesn't last forever. It's not supposed to. What I'm gonna do is we're eating on these still somewhat, but these little squishy guys that are sprouted, I'm gonna see if I can go plant them out in the greenhouse and get an early harvest of baby potatoes before summer even hits. So they're headed outside today too. So I'm playing around with planting little bits of some cold weather crops to see if they'll germinate right now. And I'm not gonna plant everything at once, I'm gonna do succession planting. So I'll plant a row or two of each one, wait a couple weeks, plant another row or two to see how much I can stretch out the harvest. Next year I can get a little more aggressive with my planting this early, but since we're still putting in bricks and hydrants and geothermal, I don't want to get too crazy and plant things where we're going to be digging. So going conservative this year, next year will be a little wilder. And now I just got to drag the hose all the way to the hydrant at the garden and all the way back so I can get some water in here. I'm going to be really happy when we have a hydrant in the greenhouse because this is getting a little old. It's been a while since they've seen something green. I think they're excited. To get the full scoop on my indoor seed starting system, which has allowed me to grow thousands of dollars worth of vegetables over the last several years, check out this video, and you don't even need a greenhouse to make it work.